welcome to the dungeon with Harlan and Andrew.
Hi, hello. Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of The Dungeon, our weekly Game Master talk show. Usually I say here, I'm Harlan Kelly, and Andrew Overdahl says, I'm Andrew Overdahl, but he's not here with us this week. It's just me, flying solo, with our wonderful guest, Jackie Kashian. Thank you, Jackie, so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Harlan. And don't think I won't take it personal, Andrew. I will. I will take it completely personal.
He said that exact same thing to me. He said, Harlan, I have some bad news for you.
Make sure she knows that it's personal.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make it, but I make sure you heard her feelings with the news.
Yeah,
of it, so,
yeah, it's super important.
Jackie's to everyone watching who's unfamiliar, Jackie's the host of the Dork Forest podcast and the co-host of the Jackie and Laurie show, as well as just being an excellent comedian. So everyone
with the stand-up and the bit. Yep.
Yeah, the talking.
Yeah.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's available as entertainment, even in these troubled times. Did you guys know that we have troubled times? Anyway,
I've been told.
You're aware?
By everything around me all the time. Yeah.
It's a constant cacophony.
But so one of the reasons you're here today is to talk to us about, as this is part 2 of our interview we did last week about a 16-year-long D&D campaign.
Right. You asked me to be on the show for DMs, and I was like, why did I give you the name of my DM? And then, because I've often wanted to game master or DM a game, but and I've only been playing since 2004. Mm-hmm. But I'm scared. Well, the thing is he's been playing since like 1980.
Oh,
right?
He told us.
So,
it's impressive. Yeah.
He is in for the duration, like early days. We went to Wisconsin, and he was like, where's Lake Geneva, Wisconsin? And I was like, it's where the mobsters from Chicago bury their dead. Did you want to go to Lake Geneva? And so we went, and we stared at Gary Gygax's house, and he said, why isn't this a museum? And I said, why aren't you Harrison?
Like, that's just some good OG nerddom right there.
Exactly.
Little kid in his brain just staring at a house that it is everything, just normal to everybody else. Yeah.
Let's go to the place where he sat in his basement.
But
and made all those jokes available.
Yeah, I mean but one of the things, the reason why you're our first player to be, hop on the dungeon with us is I think playing a 16-year campaign is an incredibly unique thing. I say to everyone I talk to about Dungeons & Dragons ever that 60% of D&D is just scheduling, because it's very difficult to get 4 to 5 adults in a room together consistently. And so there's some literal magic in you all being able to do this, and
every 4 to 6 weeks for 6 hours for 16 years. That's insane.
It is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so good. And so I think as a DM who just constantly obsesses about trying to make sure that my players want to continue to play with me, I would love to hear about a piece of it for you. Like, I would love to hear your advice to other DMs, as someone who's experienced this, on things they can do to kind of like keep that hook going.
Well, that's the weird thing. So I started, Andy is my husband, and so I started dating him, and he was like, would you like to try to play maybe Little Dungeons & Dragons? And so I came in sort of D&D was the first one I did, and then I started playing other systems and other games with other GMs. And the crazy thing about that is it never occurred to me that the personality of the game master is so huge.
Yeah.
Like, we played this, I think we were playing Pathfinder a couple of years ago with a friend of ours, and he likes to DM where he kills you. And then he like, and the thing is one of the people we were playing with was a guy who was like 13 or 14, like somebody's kid, right? And he would get so bummed, and I would get
Oh,
so bummed because we were sort of the noobs,
yeah.
and everybody else knew that he wasn't a dick, right? Because he would kill you, and then you say, "Oh, by the way, how many hero points you got sitting around? Oh, do you want to use a hero point, come back to life,
Yeah.
and sort of stabilize yourself?" And I was like, "Oh, you're an asshole, but you're not a complete asshole. Nobody's, you know what they say, nobody's 100% a dick. Guardians of the Galaxy."
There you go.
So,
Getting that, just earning that nerd cred. I love it.
and so, but it's so interesting because like some of the game masters or dungeon masters I've played with, they want to make sure, I mean, the rules of game design, according to Andy Ashcraft, and I'm sure any number of anybody who runs a game, is you got to make sure everybody wants to play, you got to make sure everybody's having fun, and you got to make sure everyone has something to do. And so if you sit through a 6-hour game and you didn't have a lot to do, that's a drag,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you gotta you have to. It's sort of like, it's got to be like directing an orchestra, especially if you have 5 players. Which I think. Do you ever go more than 5 players? 5 players seems max, doesn't it?
I run a 6-player, a bi-weekly 6-player game that is difficult to accomplish that. But
Yeah.
luckily, Andrew plays in it with me. But luckily, I feel the players kind of like get joining in that dance with me. They're kind of
Okay.
like, okay, cool. Like, we like hanging out, so this we're gonna join in on this, or like I'm gonna do this thing in the background, and then when it's my kind of like moment, I'm gonna step in, and then I'm gonna get out of the way, so you can feel the dance happen.
Okay.
But it's difficult because of
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
And it helps if you know the people you're playing with,
Yeah.
and you know everybody's level and stuff, I guess, or sort of what they like like Andy knows that I wanna hit something. I want my least favorite, and yet I know it's important to, let's say, our cleric. He's a big fan of the political moments. Like, we have like 2 players who like to have this long discussion and then have a huge Goblin King interaction and I'm like, what? Is there anything to hit?
Yeah.
And but no, there isn't. But those particular game episodes are for those guys.
Yeah.
And they like to, they've been playing since they were 13 too, so they like to monster up too.
Yeah.
They like to hit too, but they have a more nuanced game. To play with all sort of different levels. That's, I think, the real difficulty. And so it's been interesting to play. Like, I played Champions with somebody, and what I like to do is I like to play a game system with someone or several someones who have swallowed the books.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
helps.
because they know where the charts are. They know what I'm supposed to be rolling, and how many dice, and so it makes the game go a little bit faster. Because if you got to go look at 5 different books to figure out what everything is, it can slow the game down, which is fine, but not also super great.
Which is like a thing we've talked about on this show a decent amount with various guests, is player comfort at the table, kind of like handling conflict, or just like making sure everyone's comfortable. And I think this is what you're saying right now is such evidence on how that builds consistent gameplay, and how that makes people want to come back, and how that makes people like engage,
want to play for 15 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why we're all here, is because like we all want to. That's why we all sit around for 6 hours, is because like we want to do this weird nerd thing, and to get other people to like jump in with that is like listening to the people and engaging players in ways that they want to be engaged in.
And it's so funny watching the other players that were in this game, for example, because these are all guys who are 100 years old now, right? And they've been playing since they were 13.
Yeah.
And you can see that they're old school nerds, right? They're old school dorks who got a lot of their social skills from D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they got to role play. They're like, they don't have a problem if somebody wants to be a girl, they don't have a problem if someone wants to uh, do this other thing. And they tell me stories about growing up with this stuff where they're like, well, I didn't know how to talk to people. So when I would go into the bar, into the tavern as my half orc self, I could do all the things that I would want to do, but I didn't have the guts to do in real life. And it was just the reason that the words role play are in the damn thing is you could role play a hero, you could role play an asshole, see how that plays out. You could role play, you know, and and then you also have to learn how to deal as a team. You have to learn how to be a team,
Yeah,
which
it's
only jocks get to do.
yeah.
So if you aren't a jock, you have to figure out another way to figure out how to work with people. And
Right.
D&D is so good for that.
Yeah, it's truly I makes me sad how there's like a whole huge problematic history here and there to like D&D and stuff, but like I think there is kind of like the grok nodded term of like this old dude, like gatekeeper dude in the basement who's just a jerk. But I know not so many, but I feel like it's more common in my experience to run across this kind of like kind nerd who did that, who just like was able to explore in their brain and then like learn from interactions with other people. We've had people on the show who've talked about DMing for kids and how they've seen how it's like important for the kids to be able to like touch the stove socially in ways that like let them learn. And so
that's a great analogy because what is D&D but touching the stove?
Truly.
I'm sitting around with okay, so I was a rogue
in the 16-year campaign.
In the 16-year game. I was because Andy did it was 3.5. That was the system. It was right after 3 came out, and there was trouble. It was hard to work with. So 3.5 came out as patches, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we played 3.5, and that's how I learned D&D was on 3.5.
That's awesome.
And it was also the Eberron world. That
Whoa.
was the world that we were in. But Andy doesn't like psionics, so he pulls them out of the system.
Oh boy.
And then he also knows that I didn't know how to make a character, so he helped me make the character, right? Like he essentially went to the charts for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an amazing, I don't think I would have played if I would have had to find the charts. And depends how badly you want to play. Are you willing to hold people's hands for the first? And so we go in, and he's like, what do you want to be? And I was like, well, I would like to be an archer. That's what I would enjoy being.
Yeah.
And he's like, archer's good. Ranged, that's great. And I was like, and I guess I'm a comic, so I think I wanted to be a bard, but I didn't want to be a bard because I thought that was kind of lame.
Yeah.
So I'm a rogue. I was a rogue, and I was an archer, but I was also from another plane. I was and so my character was I had 4 arms.
Which plane?
Don't know.
Okay, I love it. I love it. See, that's the beauty of kind of like him being willing to like not be like, well, you got to learn all this stuff to play. Instead, he's like, come here, come in with me, like tell me what you're excited about, and then I'll do all the other stuff. Like,
which is that was the reason he started writing the Hero Instant, which was because I didn't want to make a character, and he was like, what if I created a system where you could make a character in like 15 minutes? And it would be, and I was like, oh my God, that would be great. And my first character was Firebike Mike. And Firebike Mike had a motorcycle and had fire powers, and his name was Mike. Anyway, there wasn't a lot to it.
That sounds fun to hang out with, honestly.
Right? Who doesn't want to hang out with? Yeah, Firebike Mike. That's good times. Anyway, but the thing about being a rogue is, so everybody in the who I was playing with, they had been playing since they were kids, so they kind of held my hand through the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. They were kind of really supportive of me, but Andy might have told the story. A couple of things happened. Like initially, we were in like the jungles of Monsterville, or what one of the. There was there's a monster land in Eberron.
Okay.
Which I'm forgetting the name of.
I'm not
maybe in the
to
chat.
Pull it out.
We don't know.
Someone pull it out. So who swallowed the book? Someone swallowed the book. Get it out.
And as soon as they say, it's like Drome, maybe. Anyway, but we're there, we run into like these slee stack characters who shoot us with aging arrows. I pick
Oh,
up those aging arrows, put them in the thing, and then we run into a baby dragon, and I say, should I shoot it with the aging arrows? And as a group, they all go no, and he goes, if you would like to, and because he's the DM,
yeah.
and but because you can't know intuitively the dragons. Why would I know this? The dragons get more powerful and smarter as they age. It makes sense, and they live for 1,000 years. Who knows? Who knows that? Anyway, so that was the one thing that was very funny, and
That's the one we asked him on the show
yeah.
what question to ask you, and he said, ask her if you should shoot a dragon with aging arrows. And both Andrew and I were like, well,
What?
yeah.
What? Was she nuts? And
That's
so,
so
and then
fun.
and then the other one was, this was years later. So we're playing like 5 or 6 years later, and
Oh boy.
I have an arch. I have these people who are genociding the Kalishtar. I'm a Kalishtar, and the Loomies, they like to kill the Kalishtar. And so there's a luminous boat. There's an airship, a luminous airship, and and I and I'm like, oh, there's Loomies there. I wonder if should I, because I'm a rogue. I'm also good at sneaking, right? Like Flat Stanley, I got good sneakery, and so I said, I wonder if I should sneak onto the boat. And our big sort of Warforged, he played by Kevin. Kevin goes, well, a rogue would sneak over there. And I think he was just kind of bored that day and
like
wanted to do some
goading you.
fighting.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And so the cleric and the wizard are like, wait, what just happened? And I'm gone. And then they have to come and save me. And so there was some excitement in the middle of the in the middle of the game.
That's so fun. It's such a good example of like, again, the DM listening to the players and being like, all right, they're kind of excited about this. Like, maybe you would be people who would talk them out of this, but it makes sense. Like, their characters would like run over here. So it's like finding like ways to pass that baton and engage players in different ways, like in
Yeah.
the narrative. Yeah.
And Andy was saying that he didn't like Gloomhaven very much, which is because they're very much mods, right?
Yeah,
They're good for beginner DMs
Mm-hmm.
because there's this the way you have to go if
Right.
you wanna do the adventure. But he said one of his favorite things about dungeon mastering and game mastering is that the plan never it never we always weed off on them,
Yeah.
and so you could try to steer them a little bit, or you could just sort of reshuffle, and then all of a sudden, sort of what was happening over here is now happening over here if you have to.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because you want to listen to the players with like, if you try and be like, all right, here's here's A, and then here's Z, like let's hit all the letters. It's not gonna be fun for the players because the players are just guessing what you want to do,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely more fun every time I'm like talking to a new DM or someone who wants to DM. It's kind of like. I only know this because I had the same experience too, of kind of like weaning them off the idea of like you're writing a story that the players are going to play out, and more preparing like, I'm going to fill this dungeon full of things and then we'll find out what happens. Like, and like I think it was Andy who used the term like the rainfall effect, the waterfall effect. I can't remember. Ted will remember. He's in the chat. But where like you write what would happen if the water just fell down and the players stick their hand in it, and the course of all the water changes. And Ted said it was rainfall, but
Okay, what is this do a build? What is Secret Doves talking about in this?
So that's one of he wants to know if you ever, after that first experience with building your character with Andy in 3.5, did you ever make any other D&D characters? Did you go back to 3.5 and dig into the rules and kind of like flush more things out?
I did not. It's so interesting. I love those people that just sort of read the books before bedtime.
Yeah.
Like I know so many, and this is actually a little sad. It's just like where there was no one to play with.
Yeah.
So they just read the books as books,
Yeah.
which is also kind of awesome.
It's kind of awesome.
Because they're just like, who doesn't want to look at the pictures? Who doesn't want to think about? And like my buddy Dan Telfer, he has a Twitch channel too. If and runs the Brian Posehn Dungeons. I was on
Nerd Poker.
Nerd Poker.
Yeah,
I was.
come hang out with us. We should hang out. That's
Okay.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, yeah. Oh, Dan's a great DM, man. He's a really good DM. And but I will say that they asked me to come on that show, and so I had to build a character for that, and I built and it was a Patreon only extra game, so it wasn't in their arc. It wasn't in the story. It was like a one-off.
Yeah.
And my character was just a sword-wielding doof named Gaston Mansplain. And and so one of his characteristics was someone in the party would suggest something, and then Gaston would suggest the same thing but louder, which was funny, and then it was annoying, and then get this, that it was funny again. You just had to keep doing it. And but he was a pretty strong fighter too, so he had that going for him.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's a really beautiful part of doing the kind of stuff that like we're digging into on here. It's just providing more opportunities for people to engage in whatever way they want to. Because I think that's a fun part about reading the adventures too, is you kind of like see how different things are built, so that when players want to do whatever that you want, you can be like, oh yeah, I remember how that one encounter was running this one thing one time.
Right. Well, like Andy has run so many games. I don't know if you do this. Do you keep keep a binder?
I have
what happened before?
I have an endless amount of Word docs on my computer that I can just pull out. Yeah.
He prints them out, and then he does a rehash of what happened, and then he shortens as you're like 7 episodes in, he shortens the first arc into 2 sentences, the second three games into 2 sentences, and so there's he's a game designer, so he loves to make game design documents as well.
Yeah,
he enjoys a spreadsheet. Anyway,
yeah. Well, we have a couple more questions in the chat, and I want to get to the roll table too, so I'm just gonna blow through some real quick.
Yeah.
Someone asked, as a player, what do more GMs need to do? What do you think?
I think, well, I do like from the different games that I've played in, the ones I like the DMs that aren't married to the plot, that they don't that they've done enough prep work so that there's a big enough story, and it's loose enough so that it can go in several directions, and it doesn't, and they're not like, well, they didn't go into that one patch of woods and I needed them because that was funny or that was the coolest, and you're just like, sort of. And that's got to be a DM skill that you learn, right? Is to be more improvisational on the fly? Or?
Yeah, which is hard because it's just because it's scary. It's hard to let go of what you know. Like, you're like, oh, if this king doesn't die that they were supposed to assassinate, then, like, what do they get? Like, does he just is he, like, you're trying to, like, fill in that thing as it happens.
Right.
But players can feel that. Like, you can feel...
But your panic.
Yeah, or just that, like, they have to go into this dungeon, or this has to happen, and that's not fun. It's not fun.
Right, that could pull some of the fun out of it, or if you do have that, maybe you could just be like, you guys are really gonna, and it. Yeah. I mean, there better be a payoff. It's sort of like doing a joke about something really dark. Like if you write a premise that's super, super dark, it better have a really great punchline.
Right.
Yeah. Because otherwise people are just going to be bummed out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly. That makes sense. And another question, we talked about the aging the dragons. That's pretty fun. But do you have any other memory that stands out as like, oh man, that is a moment that just is going to live with me forever from the 16-year campaign?
It was so cool. It's just like we were on this bridge, right?
Okay.
And we're trying to get into this. It was either an orc kingdom or a goblin kingdom. Some sort of monster kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're monsters, but they're other monsters. And there's this bridge, and all of a sudden, a colossal dragon shows up, and we all have to do fear rolls.
Yeah.
And so the it was like half of us failed it and half of us made it. And if you made the fear roll, you were not afraid and you realized that it was an illusion.
Oh boy.
And if you didn't, and I failed it, and I just remember Andy just describing it as just a horde of orcs and goblins just running at me, and me just freaking the hell out, just booking, and the team members try to grab me and just grab her. But it was such a cool image that he had drawn.
Yeah.
You know, like the description, because when you describe, I've played in games where the description could be the room too much.
Yeah.
And the bad guys not enough.
Yeah.
Like the characters, like more emphasis on character description, less emphasis on the building you're in, unless you need to find a door.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Do you hear that, DMs? Describe your monsters. Don't
Describe your monsters.
No one cares what the bed looks like. You know, describe that goblin ear. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of ears? Earrings? Earrings? Wear jewelry? What's happening? Does it matter?
That's good too. I love that story too because it's like a moment of you. I think a lot of I've played with people who they're like, okay, I'm afraid, but like I know that it's not real, so I'm not really afraid. But it's you committing to it too, and you following that rabbit hole.
That was something I was encouraged to. I was encouraged to just role play it as big as you want, because that makes it more fun for the DM, and it makes it more fun for the other characters, and sort of loosens it up for them to play that way too.
Oh man, it builds so much trust too when you just see a player make an intentionally bad decision for their character because it makes sense. Yeah.
That's what the character would do. And then you're like, I am so sorry my character would do this, but here's what my character would do. And I guess I have to deal with the consequences, which is just like real life. So maybe in real life I wouldn't make that decision, but in this character, because I know what the consequences are, which will be horrible.
There it is.
It was, I think, like Buttercup, who was our Warforged, and the thing. So several things happened in the playing of the game where I didn't realize that I was in the game. Like we were in the woods, and we met a witch, and the witch said you have 3. And we're level 2, right? We're early days, and the witch said you could have 3 questions, and I said, how tall are you? And Andy goes, 5'4". You now have 2 questions. And then all the other guys were like, for a second. They were very nice to me, very loving, very supportive, but they were like,
This could make or break a couple things. Yeah.
Ticket? We're trying to figure something out here? Okay.
Oh, that's so fun. That's so fun. What a good little trick, too, of like, yep, it counts. Yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't do it that often, right? But he was just like, sometimes you got to learn when you put your hand on the stove.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Cool. Well, just for the last thing here, would you want to roll in our random question table? So you got that D20. Show your dice off to the chat because they're really cool.
Well, I have this die, which when you roll a 20, it lights up, and the battery, I just realized, is dead. Okay. But it is giant. Look how big it is.
So cool.
So big.
Very fun.
And then I have this is made out of rose quartz.
Awesome.
Which is super
it looks
pretty.
So pretty. Yeah.
And then this is amethyst. And so I'm going to roll the amethyst one just because I think it's gorgeous.
Are you a Steven Universe fan? Because you've knocked off 2 of the characters on there with those dice. I love it.
Creator name, forgetting her name, the woman who created the Steven Universe.
Yeah,
she was on the Dork Forest.
Oh, that's all. I'm gonna go listen to it because I love that show. And
if you have a dorkdom or you have a favorite comedian or somebody, if you Google the words "the Dork Forest" and that person's name or dorkdom, you could. There's 1,000 episodes.
Yeah.
Actually, there's 800 episodes. But whatever.
Close, getting there.
I don't mean to brag.
No, you should plug your stuff. I mean, if while you're rolling.
I rolled a 16.
A 16. All right.
That's pretty respectable.
It's pretty respectable. Yeah, that's high. I'm pretty sure that's higher than Andy rolled. For your own records.
That's the other thing I learned. Don't use the GM's dice. Don't do it. They're cursed. Okay.
That's fair. So the question is favorite homebrew loot item. So it's like a custom made item. So what about what's if you don't have something that is like is made up or that you have made up? What about like just a favorite piece of loot you've gotten in a game too?
Oh. The a favorite loot. I think I got yeah, it was so I had a short bow, but I got I found one that had you could put a bane on it. So I had a +2 Lumi bane on my short bow.
Oh
so
boy! So when you shot someone, they got baned.
Right. Or wait, I don't think that's the answer to the question. I don't think I answered the question. Allow me to try again.
Okay.
Because the stuff that I like, you would roll the bodies, and then you would get stuff, and I had 4. My favorite thing about my character was that she had 4 hands, so I could wear 4 rings.
Oh hell yeah!
And so she had a sustenance ring, so she only had to sleep 2 hours a night. And eat every 3 days or whatever, and she had I wish I had brought my character. I knew I should have grabbed my character.
Yeah. I said
but
you
the
didn't have
sustenance,
to, but,
yeah, the sustenance ring. That'd be my favorite thing because I would like that if I only had to sleep 2 hours a night. Even though, because right now I sleep like the big cats. I like to sleep 10, 12 hours a day.
God, I know it's really daunting sometimes to come across a magic item or just a spell. There's just that like tiny little wisp in your brain that's like, God damn, like if only I had prestidigitation, I could just do this all of the time. Like I could just clean my hair, I could take out any stain, whatever. It's good. So.
Right. I want to show you also that I just got these. They're coasters. They're D20 coasters.
Oh,
they're pretty fun.
That's cool.
Who doesn't? You got to protect your tabletop.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
And nerd. Jackie. It's just Jackie, Dork Forest.
Good.
Anyway.
Yeah. So before we take off today, we're a little past our time. Tell the chat, tell our friends, everyone watching this, where they can find you, things they should check out.
Oh, it's just at Jackie Kashian everywhere. And it's the Dork Forest is on everywhere you listen to a podcast. It's on YouTube as well. And Jackie Kashian is JACKIEKASHIAN. And I have a Twitch channel that I've done nothing with. Wow. So go look for Jackie Kashian on Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram and all the things, and listen to podcasts and stand-up comedy if you want. It's all for free on Spotify and Pandora and Amazon if you want to listen to my albums. I have like 4 albums.
Cool. Yeah. Everyone go check it out. Thank you so much, Jackie, for coming and hanging out with us today and talking about this game. And I wish you many more years of D&D in front of you. And all
Thank
games.
you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we'll see y'all later. And don't forget, tip your DMs. Except for Andrew, who's not here right now. But later.